Yo, Dr. Driscoll, if I had Terraria, what would I do different? Honestly, Terraria is a pretty good game overall. I don't really have much anything to change about it, but if I did, it would definitely be this false RPG aspect that they added to the game. False RPG meaning there's really no reason to play any of the classes that they set out, despite that they note that there are classes. There's 3 different types of damage. There's melee, ranged, and magic, or actually there's 4, and there's the summon one, but I'm gonna get to that here in a little bit. For the most part, it's not really necessary to play any of those classes because there's no real incentive to stick with those classes. Yeah, certain items give you buffs for certain classes and certain damage, but it really means nothing in the end, especially when a lot of the enemies don't really get affected by a lot of the things you send at them. They have their defense, they have their knockback resistance, and maybe some immunities to some status effects, but that's pretty much it. I don't mind games that add different class types to their games, like Divinity. Original Sin does it really nice because there's a reason to play with each class. Magic's is separated, and therefore there's a specific need to play with each one of those different types of magic types. But for most games don't do it right, and Terraria is an example of that because it adds a summoner class that has no real anything to it. It's not skill, it's just a thing that helps you fight. So that could have been anybody though. Hell, if a warrior has enough, they can summon a companion. What's the point? The summoner class is a pretty broken class overall, but it really doesn't make any sense that it does its own damage type. It doesn't make sense anything has its own damage type, like I said, because there's no enemy has resistances to these things. No enemy has like range resistance or melee resistance. I would just make sure it has some incentive to play as whatever you wanted to play as. You know, maybe level up system, kind of like Minecraft. You could just make incentives, like if you kill people with swords most of the time, maybe you get a sword buff. Like I would add some incentive to makes you want to stick with a class. A weapon proficiency would probably be the better choice. Then you don't have to stick to a class. You can switch a class and get proficiency bonuses in that department as well. That would be a better outcome. Not only that, hardcore mode in a master world is virtually impossible. Another thing I've noticed was that just the difficulties and the way you play your worlds or the character you play with makes a difference. I don't like playing softcore because it's too easy, but I can't play medium core because if I die and I lose everything, then that's still heartbreaking. That's essentially almost like having hardcore. The fact that I come back and I can go and get my material or my items and stuff that I lost doesn't really help me because I still have to go get the weapons that I had in order to, in the first place, that helped me travel to go get it. And especially if it's in the far place where you lost it, you know you can't get back to. Things like that. I personally would just make the top row, the 1 through 0 and your little hotbar, I would make that your equipment. And then everything in your bag you would lose. Because then at that point, people don't have to always fear the fact that they're going to lose everything when they go out. And they would always have the weapons and the armor and stuff that they need to constantly go back. The stuff you have equipped, you won't lose that. Your items that you have in your first row would be fine. Everything in your backpack, that will drop. Because then at that point, I mean, losing all your minerals and stuff is still detrimental. Losing money is a minor inconvenience, but losing everything you mined for and worked so hard to get sucks. But I need a way to go get it back without always having to make 100 different swords just in case I keep dying. And especially in master mode, this game has a really bad balancing issue. So I would just make a different way so you don't have to always feel that harsh sting of losing everything. Essentially, that's what I would do if I had this game. Other than that, this game is pretty dope all through and through. Like I said, it's one of my go-tos, way better than Minecraft. And with that, that's what I would do if I had it.